President of Fiji Principals Association, Mrs. Gounder, also my former teacher, members of the association, the Deputy Secretary Professional, Mrs. Talonga, Deputy Secretary Primary and Secondary, Mr. Tipudin Bure, Directors, the Ministry of Education, Director Nazak, Mr. Manwasa Nikarawa, Director PG Teacher Registration Authority, Mr. Sodabeg, Director Exams, Mr. Sedi Wangabada, Director Curriculum, Mr. Vimlesh Chand, Acting Director Primary, Mr. Hemchand, Director Asset Monitoring, Mr. Aseri, Director Secondary, Mr. Moshi Lutanika, other senior members of Ministry of Education, principals, delegates from Japan, I believe, are also here. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all, and it's a pleasure to be here to address you all at the 117th Principals Association Conference. The conference perhaps is more looked forward given the fact that we are facing an academic year which is exceptional in its own sense. First and foremost, at this juncture, let me take this opportunity to pass my deepest condolences to all the 44 victims of families that were affected by the cyclone Winston and are no longer with us, the members of their family. May their soul rest in peace. Our prayers are also with all those, including you, who are rebuilding and restoring after the turmoil our beloved nation went through. Ladies and gentlemen, obstacles have always tested us, but it certainly makes us stronger and more enriched. When our Prime Minister, Honorable Bainimarama, convened our emergency government meeting immediately after tropical cyclone Winston, his bold decision that schools should open for classes within 1 week echoed on. At the hour of great devastation and turmoil, his wisdom and foresight was commendable. The Ministry of Education, Heritage and Arts would worked around the clock to ensure that this vision was fulfilled, as our children needed us and they were desperate. Ladies and gentlemen, schools offered a safer place for our children, a home away from home, away from their suffering and torment. The resilience of the Bainimarama government became a foundation for efficient rehabilitation work, ensuring that no child was left behind on their own to carry the load of damages and devastation that they encountered. Consequently, I would like to sincerely thank each one of you for the role you played to ensure that classes normalized after the cyclone. With the support from you all, we were able to deal with the immediate needs of the students and get them back to schools while their parents concentrated on rebuilding their homes. I also want to thank you for the contribution of $93,513 from the teachers and students towards the Prime Minister's Relief Fund. A total of 494 schools sustained damages in the range of minor to 100% damage, totaling about $69.2 million. I recall we did a similar collection some time back for Vanuatu, and they reciprocated by making a collection this time around and gave it to us close to 60 to 70,000, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me to speak to you all after. As you know, our high school heads, principals and head teachers are very important to us. It gives us an opportunity to focus our attention on the many achievements of our educational community despite recent adversity. It also gives us an opportunity to express our gratitude to all who have contributed to our success. I must admit that it would have been impossible to encapsulate the last 18 months of creativity and learning and growth in just this 45 to 50 minutes. And I believe there's some extra minutes given to me. I note the theme of the conference deals with preparing 21st century children for global society. This theme is very closely related to the aims and aspirations of Ministry of Education, Heritage and Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, education is paramount concern to the national interest, my utmost interest, as well as to each individual. We have an education dream for all children or students in our beloved nation. And this dream is not only in line to achieve a knowledge-based society, but also to ensure excellence in all facets of education. Today, more than ever, we need a new standard of excellence in education, matched by the fullest possible access to educational opportunities, enabling each citizen to develop his or her talent to the maximum possible extent, pegged to global benchmarks. So what really does this mean, this theme means, and what response change? How do we change our response to ensure that we deliver onto this education dream as captured by your theme? To answer this question, let's define what a global society is. And once you are able to define what a global society is, then we can look at how we change our response to this particular global society. A global society is one where it requires tolerance, understanding, accommodating others, and believing in oneness. As school heads, your role in promoting these values amongst the students as well as the staff is paramount. A culture needs to be created in the school, whereby the students and staff understand each other's values and thoughts. Being appreciative, recognizing and accepting others' differences would enable one to work collaboratively with others and together meet set benchmarks. As heads of staff, we need to model respect and tolerance to the students. Tolerance relates to the outgrowth of character qualities such as kindness, patience, courtesy, humility, self-control, and courage. The type of comments we make, the language we use, the activities we promote as head teachers and teachers will all be modeled for students. Output and performance will be affected due to one's inability to work with others and teachers, failing to understand the different needs of the students. When teachers are not able to work together as a team and understand the background of the students, our students are affected. We have to learn to appreciate each other's differences and acknowledge the opinions of each other. This way, a diverse and dynamic team will be formed. We need to teach our children the important roles that different ethnic groups play whilst contributing to national economy, peace, and prosperity. What their religious beliefs are. Our children need to be guided to work together in racial harmony and do what is best for the country. We won't be able to do this by locking up schools on religious days and sending them home, but rather by using our school system and telling our students what our religious messages are. You as school heads become the key components to foster such important values in your school, which will eventually trickle down to community at large. Peace is the solution to all global issues, and we need to build the ideals of education system on that. B, with respect to what is a global society. B, where everyone will be given equal chance for participation without reference to any variables such as ethnicity, religion, gender, etc. We need to rise above issues of emotion, issues of gender, ethnicity, religion, caste, class system, and make decisions based on our analytical ability, based on logic and reasoning. We need to promote equality in our education system. It's essential for both teachers and students as well as for long-term peace and prosperity of the nation. All students should have equal access to school facilities. There should be no religious racial barrier which would either directly or indirectly affect the performance of the teachers or in turn performance of students. All student and staff members should be given chance to freely participate in all school activities. In faith and community-based schools, students and staff participation in religious or traditional activities should be voluntary and not forced. Each team member inputs should be appreciated and all constructive criticism should be done in a tactful and professional manner. Organizing regular village community visits and CAPS meeting will help in understanding, gaining understanding about students' background and also having a constructive relationship with the parents and communities. Will also allow you to understand the students well and deal with some of the issues that may result in the student undertaking those conduct which will be detrimental to herself or himself or to the family in the school system. C, where educational excellence, curiosity, and critical thinking will be the defining factor for growth and development. So our global society is defined by ensuring that educational excellence, excellence in academia, curiosity, a curious mind, thinking critically outside the box will be the defining factor for growth and development of micro and macro institutions and firms or enterprises at the national level as well. Our core role is teaching and our target is academic excellence. Teaching is input, academic excellence is medium-term output, the long-term output is a sustainable, peaceful, progressive, growing nation. The future of children is in our hands, and we are not only preparing them for intermediate output of academic excellence, but for the long-term goal of building a peaceful, vibrant, and growing society. Our teaching strategies and assessment methods should be designed in such a way that will encourage them to undertake outside-the-box thinking. Employers want them to push the frontier, want them to think differently, outside what the current way of doing things, so that they can make a difference in the workplace. Be more than just a template-driven graduate. Ladies and gentlemen, curiosity needs to be promoted among students. Unless and until a person has a curious mind, he or she will never question existing way of doing things and find better way of doing things, and therefore will never be able to push the frontier of that firm, the nation. And unless and until we're able to push the frontier, the community, the society, and the country or nation will remain stagnant. The only way a country grows and develops is by individuals, groups, institutions who push the frontier, who continuously question the existing body of knowledge, and this is done by curious minds. Curiosity is very important. School environment should be inviting. Classrooms should be bright and cheery. Lessons should be interesting, where students should be doing more talking and working, which I term as a student-centered approach of teaching and learning, rather than a teacher-centered approach of teaching and learning. D, where information technology skills will be a binding constraint for all core business. Ladies and gentlemen, in the contemporary and future global society, IT skills will become a binding constraint for individual firm performance as well as a nation's performance. Without unleashing this constraint, no nation will be able to grow and grow to its full potential. There's a need to upgrade computer and technology literacy. Is vital in today's technological society. We need to move on with introducing digital literacy or rolling out digital literacy in e-learning methods. And you must understand there is more to digital literacy than just e-learning. E, about what a global society is. where values and virtues will contribute to the required social capital essential for collaborative work as well as for developing trust required for transactions to take place. In any country, any society, individuals need to engage in transactions. Businesses need to engage in transactions. The moment transactions don't take place, no business will happen. Whether it's in a small village, whether it's in town, city, or country. For businesses to grow, transactions need to take place between two individuals, two firms. For individuals to engage in transactions, those individuals need to trust each other. People in the institutions need to trust the other party. And for trust, we need social capital. No one will exchange money for good because the person, unless the person trusts that this paper dollar is equivalent to the good that the person is wanting to purchase. How does a person trust the paper dollar? You have a paper dollar, you've got a goat there, and you want to give this small paper dollar worth something written 150 or 200 or 300 to buy that goat. Because people trust the system, and trust is based on social capital. How do we build social capital in a country? Those countries which have become bankrupt some time back, because the whole social capital system collapsed, and people were refusing to engage in transactions. Ladies and gentlemen, values and virtues will instill discipline among students as well as staff and eventually improve attendance and punctuality in our school system. Values and virtues will allow people to trust each other and allow transactions to take place. The teaching of these values and virtues can be integrated into a curriculum, can be directly taught. The topics, presentations during assemblies, school-based competitions can be organized, such as debates, oratory contests, also needed for critical thinking. Force people to take sides which they are not comfortable with and engage in debate. Then only you can allow people to critically think in a topic which he or she might not initially thought would do well. Extracurricular activities such as sports should be used as a tool to groom well-managed sports people and good members of the society. Mental fitness requires physical fitness. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in custody. Always we must remember of future PG. How you mold them, how you physically develop them, determines and defines future PG. If we have and totally obese lot of students in our school system, we will have obese future PG. We all are responsible for delivering future PG. What do we inculcate them? How do we physically nurture them out of the years 5 to 18 that we are in custody on? Will determine for future PG. Dear students, in this contemporary era, the quality of education is the basis for quality of knowledge in society. Quality education enables individuals to make meaningful impact in a global competitive employment market. Contemporary issues continue to impact our children and ultimately our schools and education system. The rapid expansion of sophisticated internet technologies, convergence of social media, games and virtual spaces, all reachable on mobile devices, is impacting our schools. Amazingly, kinds of information out there were never before accessible to us. Never existed there as well, because the medium was not there. Given the medium is there, people are loading up those information. And we can benefit to those IT revolution and this information that's out there. Individual success is firmly dependent on our ability to have full information. But the information must be checked. Our children need to be guided. Otherwise, they would get untested and unfettered information out of these sources, which will destroy their life. Ladies and gentlemen, never in the history of our nation has any past government prioritized education to the standards that we are experiencing today. The Bainimarama government has remained steadfast to ensure that all Fijians get access to quality education. We must, however, know that in order for this dream of quality education to become a reality, all stakeholders must play a part and take ownership of the individual roles, and the most important people to facilitate these are the school heads. The roles of the 177 secondary school heads are paramount, as you are in control of 5,190 teachers, including the 49 tribal teachers, and the future of 68,342 students that we have in our high school system. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of our innocent children, who are our future leaders, are in our hands as educators. The whole nation is watching how we are looking after the children, how we are molding them, and sending them to different sectors of the economy. Because our performance through the school system will determine the performance of different sectors of this economy, and therefore performance of the Fijian country, the nation, the economy. We must all work together to improve our 21st century practices. Our school systems need to respond better to this changing world and new demands. We cannot sit and gossip about the loss of values, erosion of morals, lack of interest in education, absenteeism, late arrivals, drugs and substance abuse. The students demonstrate to some extent, some students demonstrate to some extent nowadays. We need to take action and assist the children rather than complain. This is what the 21st century educators do. It is our duty to back our students to connect learning with the real life situations and to provide them with the necessary skills to prepare them for success. As our global economy develops, our need to mold children for new careers becomes even more imperative and challenging. We need to work together towards ensuring that our children will be the most valuable assets in the 21st century. For example, 50 years back, we never discussed about the topic of climate change in our schools, let alone a national discussion. But now climate change is an important topic as any other in a primary school and tertiary syllabus. Ladies and gentlemen, our Honorable Prime Minister was the first to sign the Paris Agreement, showing Fiji's intense commitment for the fight against causes of climate change. However, the role that we play as educators is perhaps the most important in achieving the mission of Paris Agreement, because we are in control of a generation which will define future Fiji. Similarly, our role is to talk about issues affecting the global world with children. We can't churn out students with only local knowledge, because the borders are merging, local boundaries are no longer relevant, and our students are part of a global village, and therefore we have to churn out global citizens locally. The 2015 statistics highlight an alarming rate of absenteeism on a daily basis in our schools respectively. From the 200,000 student population, an average of 5% are absent on a daily basis, which is equivalent to about 10,000 students being absent on a single day. There are 207,000 students we have. 5% absenteeism, while the percentage seems low. But there are 10,000 students who are out of the school system, really something not known to us. It's a huge amount. Who are to be blamed? School system, the parents, the government. Where is the issue? What is the obstacle? How many of you undertook a survey of those students who are habitually absent to see why they are absent, and guide you all the issues, all the points that create obstacles systematically? Added to this, according to 2015 National Substance Abuse and Advisory Council report, a total of 400 schools submitted their evaluation forms, and the statistics reveal that a total of 1,796 offences were committed by the secondary and primary school students. The extent that some of the students are facing court cases. I see this in media news about our students fronting up in court, I get worried. Our students shouldn't be facing courts. Where did we go home? These 1,796 offences include violence cases, drugs, sex-related offences, teenage pregnancy. Now, knowing very well that they are vulnerable between the age of 5 and 18, their emotional, their ability to make logical decisions are affected because they are in the developing stage, and therefore emotions are able to take control over their mind to entirely blame them. So who should we blame? Who are the actual parents of the children? Whom do they spend most of their active time in the day? What is a child's active time in the day? 7 to 8 p.m. And of that 7 to 8 p.m., with whom does a child spend most of the time? The gentleman I reacted the most important people in school environment can create all the differences are the students. You have a total control of the school system. The principals and the head teachers. The quality of leadership is central to the setting of direction in a school and achievement of good educational outcome for students. Single person, the head of school, can determine the future of the school, the state of the school. The principle with this in focus, we have introduced numerous reforms, like 2014 and last year, and now we're basically consolidating, except for a few major reforms that we outlined. This year we launched Pillar 4 of our reform strategy, which is parental engagement, understanding the role of parents, that they play a very important role. We want them to take ownership of the child's growth and development. We don't want them to totally leave the child's growth and development to the school system. They are the first teachers of the child. And we want to re-engage them because we believe, based on archival records, that over the last 2 decades, due to changes in the society, in the labor market, they have gradually disengaged and pushed the children more and more to the school system. We want to re-engage them because they are an important pillar, play a very important role in child's growth and development. Ladies and gentlemen, we also were able to undertake numerous successful reforms last year, which we are now monitoring. For example, bringing the exams and giving them a sense of focus from any, giving our children a sense of focus and direction from every part of the year, as well as ensuring that our parents, teachers know pretty well how the child is doing and how they can work with the child to develop the weaker areas. Ladies and gentlemen, like last year, the target for this year is again nothing less than 100% pass rate. And I challenge each one of you to deliver onto the particular target. We cannot say we only want 90% pass rate or 60% pass rate. Some people will say Minister is out of his mind. How can you have 100% pass rate? How can we go to a class and say we want 90% pass rate in this class? The agenda is doable. It's doable. But the question is, have you prepared yourself for this challenge? Have you prepared a school brochure providing full information to new students and parents? How many schools have a brochure for the school? That a potential parent will come over and the brochure will tell about the student's history, student's performance, school's performance, student's school strengths. Have you decomposed your last year's result to find out which subject has low pass rates, which teacher or which students are not performing up to the expected level. How many schools have done this? Subject by subject, year by year, teacher by teacher. Let's look at this table, which really bothers us in terms of subject performance. English, the previous percentage pass rate was 63%. Marginally, we were able to improve last year, year 15. Mathematics, the previous pass rate was 15%. We were able to substantially improve to 42%, well below our target. Again, some people might say, the minister is out of his mind saying mathematics we can get 100% pass rate. I'm saying we can. I think it's impossible. Biology, 14% pass rate in 2014, substantially improved to 40%. Of course, we need to continue with the biology. Chemistry, 10%. 2015, 34%. Physics, 28% in 2014. And we raised it to 57%. Except for English and physics, the other three pass rates are still below 50%. And similarly, the average mark, the mean mark, English 54, physics 54, while the other three is below the mean mark. The question is that what each one of you, as head of the school, have done to ensure that this performance will improve this year. Have you spoken to your teachers in maths, English, chemistry, physics, biology? Have you asked them to provide to you in return specific strategies that he or she will adopt this year to ensure that this pass rate will no longer be there, but the different pass rate much higher than the last year's pass rate? How many of you don't have to raise your hand, how many of you have called on, picked up your maths teacher, and had a special session with the maths teacher, saying, give me a list of at least 5 new strategies that you will adopt to ensure that students will improve in mathematics. And then monitor over the last 1 term to see what has been delivered in each of those listed strategies. This is your process in this evening to start thinking. Let's look at pass rates district-wise. Look at, I do hope it's legible from there, but don't write down any figures because we'll make copies for all the tables that will be given to you after this my session. I didn't want to give you now, you'll start flipping over, you won't hear what I'm saying or read the table. So please don't write anything. We've got copies, we'll be distributed to you immediately after this session. Now, if you look at district-wise, there's a marked difference between year 12 and 13 pass rate. What's the reason? I mean, you look at year 12, 31%, 38%, 50%, 44%, etc. The overall pass rate in PT in year 12 in last year was 56%. But year 13 overall pass rate is 84%. The primary reason is because year 13, these are screened out students. We've screened them out. The ones who are performing well are the ones who are proceeding to year 13. But year 12 are the students who have never been subjected to solid testing and screening out. They continuously came on, so that's why you see a high failure rate. Hopefully these tests will improve going forward because now we're screening and telling people, even though we're not keeping them home and telling them better, we're saying in year 6, year 8, year 10, your true performance. And also every year, because after year 6, we are setting the exam date. So externally a standardized paper. So yourself, your teachers, your parents, all of them will have a true picture about how the child is doing. so that we can work on the child's weaker areas. Interestingly, if you look at year 13, Suba, not doing well. Lowest pass rate in the Suba district. Highest number of schools, 2. Interestingly, without those schools, closer to the urban area, having the benefit of getting good facilities, utilities, resources, it will be interesting to see who are these schools, why they are not doing well. Madhva Kampua, reasonably good, 96% pass rate in the city. But let's look at individual school-wise, the pass rate. Can you use the screen the small icon on the right bottom to increase the font size a bit, and Sentai, further increase. I just put this 25 schools there, and the seat that we're separating to you, you will have the whole 166 schools. Rank it respect to pass it. QES will be very happy. Let's see QES right on the top. Now, really, this methodology may not give you a true picture of how good or top your school is. You can have every student getting 51, 51, 51, 51, and you have 100% passing. So our experts in the exam section, GICS here, led by young Seti Wangabada, the director, have developed 2 methodologies that I'm going to talk in a second to deal with this. But just taking this data, QDS 100%, Jana 99%, Zeta College, etc. Now, just taking this data, what do we do with, this is 25. This is 25. What do we do with the bottom, the other, up till 166? What do we do with the 166 school? I do hope that you will email me and tell me what do we do with that school, the head of that school, the teachers of the school. I look forward to your contribution. You will have my email address at government.gov.mj. The rest is saying Mahindra.at small letters. Tell me what should I do with the principals of those schools? What should I do with the teachers of the school where pass rates are 1%, 5%, 10%, 20%? What should I tell the parents that the school is delivering that particular passing? I do hope that you will give your sincere opinion. Maybe discuss our growth power today, tomorrow night, Sunday night, for those who are habitual growth drinkers. Let's look at the second methodology. Let's look at the Excel. This methodology, what it does is ranks the student based on performance in the subjects, and then takes the average rank and then ranks the school. Let's look at the other Excel sheet. Let me explain the methodology. There are a number of schools, 166 schools. Congo College, student 1, biology, he got third highest in the country. Third highest. Student 2, he or she. This student got 5th highest in the country. This school, 5th highest. Mark. 5th highest. Student 3 got 23rd highest rank in the country. I assume 10,000 students set for the exam. Biology. This student got 25th. Student 4 got 35th. 24th, another school student may have got it. 25th, another school student may have got it. So, average rank. In biology, these schools rank is 13.6. This school's rank is 13.6. So figured out a bit late. Chemistry, student 1 got 6th in the entire country, and this student belongs to this college. This student in chemistry got 33rd in the entire country. So for chemistry, this school's rank is 21.8. This school's rank is 27.8. In biology, this school's rank is 25.2. Right? Student 1 got 6th highest in this school in biology. In mathematics, student 1 got 9th highest in the entire country. Right? So this is the school's rank. Congo College, 19.6. Right? Average this way, average this way. This is the school's rank. This is the other college, Tapa College. Go down. Yeah, so 19.6, 18.3, 18.1. So just comparing these schools, Mercy College has got the lowest rank, meaning closer to 1, number 1. So this is the top school, but there are other schools. So this is how we work out how many top, how your students are ranked nationwide. Then only you can compare your school nationwide. And you need to compare school nationwide by using how your school students have performed relative to all the students in the country. Right? That's the methodology. Let's look at last year's data and see how your schools are placed. Right? You see some big names where they are placed. Select the students, screen the students, this is what you can do now. The advocating teachers there, so you can find out how to look at it. Mombasa College, next one, number 2 ranked. Xavier College, number 3. ICS, number 4. Natambua High, number 5. Sameto Secondary, 6. Sangana Stem College, Nelly, present. Full smiles. SVC, Krishna, your former school. Wangila Secondary, Penansingham High, Solo Muslim College, one more secondary school, Balaka High School, MGM, QVS, Central College. So you can see where QVS is now. QVS was number 1 there. So you can see, you can have 100% pass rate when every student is getting 51, 51, or 50, 50, 50. But it doesn't tell you how solid the school's performance is in terms of getting students getting higher marks, 60, 70, 80, etc. That methodology doesn't do that. This is the methodology that takes into account that particular. You can see 16th is Central College, Yatoka, Tabla College, Basa, number 17, Walimusunga Secondary School, Rakarati Public High School, Mombasa Muslim College, Yetsen Secondary School, Basanatan, yeah. Jimuranga College, Risukul Sanatan, Basangam College, so on and so forth. So, I'll give you that, pick up that, make sure you pick up that sheet. There will be a rush, present, there will be a rush to get the sheet to see where their school is placed. The others, so you can't know where they are placed now. So we're going to rank for all the 166 schools where we are 15. Now the question is, what do we do with these schools? School heads, teachers, students. What's the factor? Did each of those principals analyze and did a report to us saying, PS, Deputy Secretary, Director Secondary, Minister, this is a problem in my school, that's why I'm ranked ITE 100 or 166. Not a single school sent a report saying, not the good ones, those schools will perform poorly, sent a report to us saying, this is the state of performance in the school, and this is the reason. This is the causal factor. School factor is out. We've got photocopier, we've got a good library, we've got good IT lab, we've got all the textbooks. Teacher factor is out because you can see Minister, Secretary PS, Deputy Secretary, our attendance of all our teachers are perfect, the lesson plans are here, they did all, here the lecture notes, all full coverage was done, etc. The student factor is here because the students were not coming to school, this is attendance rate, so on and so forth. No one Not a single school wrote to us decomposing these three factors and saying which factor is contributing or which factors are contributing to the dismal performance of the schools. This is the kind of types of schools we have. Let's look at the third methodology. The same methodology, again developed by our bright minds out there, is you take the top 10% of students. And how many students are in the top 10% in your school? How many, can you just answer? How many students are in the top 10%? Each subject mark, let's say, there's a mathematics, the mark range is from 10 to 95. The top 10% mark, how many students are in the top 10%? 5, let's say in Tavakkol, and 6 in that's where you find the percent. So that way, you will see how many students are in the top 10 in each school. Because that defines the spread and defines the performance of the school. The top 10%, how many students. And then rank based on the number of students. In this one you will see, using this methodology, the second methodology, again JNC was number 1. In this methodology, again JNC is number 1. In the top 10% then, 7% students in JNC was in the top 10%. Natambua High, 12%. Xavier College, 10%. Namasa College, 10%. Talbot College, 10%. Suma Muslim College, 9%. Penang Sangam, 9%. MGM, 8%. Ahmadiyya, 7%. So on and so forth. Again, we'll give you for the 166. And then you will know how your school is doing in terms of a distribution of students. Any school should have a distribution. On the right-hand side of the table, you have the question is whether it's anomaly distributed, whether it's skewed to the left, skewed to the left. That's what we want to see. And that will tell you, that's the right methodology to determine how good the school is. So again, go back to the questions. Let's first. If you found your school in the top 20%, like JNC or Xavier College or Tavakkol College, what are you doing to maintain your position this year? Now, of course, you must have met your staff, set up packets. B, if you found your school in the next quartile, first quartile is 33%, 25%. The next quartile, what are you doing to move up to the top quartile? And if you found your school right at the bottom, third or fourth quartile, what are you doing to move up? These are some of the pertinent questions that you should have asked in January and then monitor it to ensure that you deliver the movement up to the top quartile. I must say, yes, you can. What is needed, you may not be able to move from the last quartile to the first quartile in 1 year period, but we need to see movement. That's what we need to see. That's what we want to see, is you moving up, so that we have everyone in the first, if not less than second quartile. So ladies and gentlemen, the question is, have you identified the weakness in the school from the last year which has impacted the results and tried to strengthen this? Are you closely monitoring your teachers, what they are delivering in the classroom and how effectively they are utilizing the preparation periods? Are there regular professional development sessions on teaching strategies to guide the new teachers and motivate others? These are some of the questions to ponder upon to reach the desired status. Ladies and gentlemen, the child spends the greater part of his or her day and teenage life in school. It's such a duty bound to protect them, educate them, love them, value them, and prepare them for the future. Not by setting mere targets, but by aiming for perfection. The child is the most precious gift for the parents, and we must give them the same value. Every child is a genius in his or her own way, and our job is to recognize the talent, polish it, and pay a part of the child to succeed thereon. Every little thing you write on the whiteboard, on the blackboard, can determine and define the entire life of the child. The child from the age of 5 to 18 is very receptive. Is hungry for knowledge. And anything you say, they will accept it and gospel truth and will define the future. Ladies and gentlemen, what you say, what you demonstrate, what you portray, inside and outside the classroom, will have a lasting impression on the child. You can't say you're a teacher only during the office hours, school hours, and therefore you can do anything or behave or conduct any way you want outside. Doesn't happen in this profession. Can't happen in this profession. It's just like the priest saying that, I can get drunk and drink beer because this is not my church session, I'm here, nightclub, etc. Taking up a profession requires you to give up, shed off certain way of conduct life. And you should be ready for that. You should have been ready for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing a major problem now because people are seeing a very receptive education system. They're now coming up and reporting to us all kinds of disciplinary issues amongst our teachers. Within the last January to April month, we saw a total of 119 complaints, ranging from unprofessional conduct, mismanagement of fund, inflicting corporal punishment, extramarital affairs, all kinds of things. I mean, you also read it in newspapers. What teachers need to understand, what our school heads need to understand, is now information are moving very fast. Information are made public very fast. And to understand some of this information might not be true. But because people have easy access to social media, the damage is done once they upload those information to social media. We need to cover ourselves. We need to protect ourselves by ensuring that we don't engage in those kind of behavior. The rest, leave it to us. We will ensure that no one will blackmail our teachers. No one will take advantage of our teachers. We will protect our teachers. But we need responsible behavior and responsible conduct by our teachers. And I can assure you, I want to assure our teachers, we will protect them. If someone is trying to blackmail you, take advantage of that. Ladies and gentlemen, there are other rising issues that continue to bother us. Teachers not following proper channel of communication, school heads not disseminating important information, received of Ministry of Education through circulars, school heads giving false information in their reporting to teachers and other activities in school, school heads not updating their records or not ensuring that records in the family system are not updated on a timely basis, and gives us wrong data or incorrect information. Correspondence coming from school heads and teachers are fraught with errors, linguistic errors. Office staff not responding and not picking up phones or responding to emails on time from the ministry. So these are some of the issues that we want you to take note of and deal with this, so that the school is up to the standard that is expected by us, as well as the stakeholders, parents, and other stakeholders who liaise with the school system. I do hope that you will take time to read these issues. This speech will be given to all of you, so that you can have a detailed reading of it. Ladies and gentlemen, my solution is to ask each one of you to get this to stop happening in the schools if it is happening. Most of the schools are excellent. It's just a small proportion of the schools which are really not up to the mark. And I believe it's precisely because of leadership in the schools. We need to align the school to our direction and work to achieve our national vision. The present time requires us to all transform ourselves and understand the needs of students to bring about positive results. This is what our primary goal is, and we need to shape up to attain it. Those who linger in the past and whine about changes do not belong to the current education system. The horses have altered, and we have gone too far ahead. The time of hanging on the past is over. Learn from the past, but give up. Let's move on. It's better. It's for the better. Ladies and gentlemen, principals, you may have witnessed the graduation of, you will be witnessing this month the graduation of 362 students, the pioneer students from our T3 Technical College. Already a graduation took place in Nelly, which included from Suba and Nelly campus. Imagine the student, I do hope that you have read the background of the student which was appeared in the left out in the paper. You would have noted that they were nowhere. They lost hope. They too have dreams like you and your children. But because of circumstances, they were not able to make a potential institution. 11 campuses of the technical college established by our government and our party leader is to give them hope, is to ensure that their dream also comes true. We want to encourage students who haven't aptitude in the skill area to come and study the technical college, funded by government, and graduate and make dreams come true. Their dream, their parents' dream, and the community members' dream. And our dream, the dream education that we talked about in Germany. The last thing I want to talk about is lifelong issue of lifelong learning. This subject matter is important not only to provide alternative opportunities to people post-retirement, but also to keep them relevant in a rapidly changing local and global labor market. In its 2001 report, the European Commission defined lifelong learning as all learning activities undertaken throughout life with the aim of improving knowledge, skills, and competence within a personal, civic, social, or employment-related perspective and goal. Lifelong learning starts from early childhood. It doesn't end after high school studies or university studies. It continues during the lifetime by short courses, online learning, etc. The reason I'm raising this with you is we need to inculcate this notion of lifelong learning amongst our children in the school system while they are in your custody, in order to ensure that the future Fijian society do not continue to knock on government doors for social security, but rather continues to upgrade themselves and be relevant to the contemporary labor market. We don't want them who have done their degree 10 years, 20 years ago, become irrelevant to the contemporary labor market. We want them to be relevant because the global world is changing rapidly, and they need to acquire this knowledge through open reading, through short courses, through online training, etc. So you need to inculcate amongst our children, saying that your studies does not end in high school, will not end in the technical college or university, but there are a lot of other ways of learning. You need to continuously upgrade your knowledge, because some of the knowledge will be irrelevant to the contemporary Fiji that they will be facing. Ladies and gentlemen, given the effects of globalization, education should now be more participatory, stimulating, and where possible transitional. We all, in our quest for knowledge and progress and to achieve excellence, should be determined and should not be deterred. Globalization will go ahead, whether we join it or not, but should we choose not to, the consequences will be terrible. Ladies and gentlemen, the current situation of education in Fiji is a culmination of close to 200 years of development. We always need to understand that the bar of academic excellence keep on rising, and we need to continuously strive to ensure that our children is given the latest by rising ourselves, or we become irrelevant. Let's all join hands to deliver the common public good of quality education. The whole nation is waiting and watching us. They expect nothing less. Let's rise up to the challenge. With these words, I wish you all a very enjoyable, rewarding, and productive years ahead. And President and members of your association, thank you for organizing this. I do hope that the remaining session will be quite relevant and enriching for you all. Thank you, Dr.